I wish I just wasn't afraid to take risk early on. It's a like calculated risk, I should say. Um, and how do you do that? I think just getting educated on, what you're investing in, and maybe just building that networking, that foundation from that standpoint. I was a person who was just all about, I'll find out myself. I'll kind of tough it through and, figure it out. But once I actually started asking for help, and I started getting assistance from others who were just smarter than me, had the right resources, those kind of things, I realized how foolish it was to try and do everything on your own,
Mhm.
and how you're going against the grain, you're going against the tides, and how just tiring that is. So, if I'm speaking to anyone out there, I would just say, just reach out. If when in doubt, reach out to someone who's in the field that you want to be in.
Welcome to the Real Estate Mogul MD podcast. Thanks for tuning in and taking control of your financial future. This is a show where we not only motivate and inspire, we give you actionable real-world experience to help you live life by design. You'll hear journeys and stories from other physicians, investors, coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs. And now, here's your host, Brett Riggins. Hey, everybody. Today I'm joined by Dr. Matthew Simpson, a third-year internal medicine resident, entrepreneur, and founder of Top MD Tutors. While still in training, he's built a growing tutoring business, started exploring real estate investing, and is actively creating financial security outside of medicine. We're diving into how physicians can balance businesses, investing, and career growth early before they hit peak earnings. Here we go. Matthew, what's up, man? How's it going? How's it feel to be Matthew today?
Yeah, man, it's good, man. Can't complain. Truly blessed to be here. I'm truly blessed to be on your podcast. I've been waiting a while. You're a busy man to
Booked.
get to
Booked.
get booked. Yeah.
For sure. Well, thank you for coming, man. I'm excited to jump into the conversation and
Sure.
excited to talk about. I love this show because I get the opportunity to talk with so many people and their little 1 degree pivots in
Hmm.
medicine and
Hmm.
entrepreneurship and in real estate. So I'm excited to talk about what you have going on today
Yeah.
and learn a little bit more about Matthew. Tell
Yeah.
us where you're at medically, your journey, where it started and where you're at now.
Yeah. So, let's see, man. It's been some time. So I will say I am now a third year PGY3 internal medicine resident. So I graduate in a few months, and then I'm moving on to do a 3-year pulmonary critical care fellowship down in Morehouse in Atlanta, Georgia. So still some more training. But originally, I think we were talking about before, originally from Columbus, Ohio. Did most of my training in Maryland. So I was over at the University of Maryland doing my medical school training, and then ultimately came here to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, just to kind of do my residency. I've been here about 3 years now. Love the city. It's a beautiful place, and that's kind of like me in a nutshell. And I'll kind of talk to you a little bit later on about the whole tutoring company and entrepreneurship and all the
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. So many pieces from there early on in
Yeah.
your career so far and your
Hmm.
first generation. Tell me a little bit about
Yeah.
that journey.
Yeah, man, it's tough. It's always tough being a first gen in anything that you do. But parents. I think my mom graduated college, but that's as high as anyone's gotten in my family. And then it kind of relied on me to kind of break that generational curse, and to do something beyond that. My parents, they worked super hard to get me into college, and then from there they're like, hey, it's kind of up to you. To get anywhere further than that. And thank goodness I had a great mentor. He was actually a physician, and also a pharmacy mentor. And they kind of were like, hey man, I think you can do medicine. I think that's the goal for you. And ultimately kind of got me with the right people, the right connections, and then that kind of the rest kind of happened organically from there.
And I was reading a little bit before we got on here about your journey too. Just like you're saying, not having a roadmap, not having someone
Yeah,
there who's been there to show you.
yeah,
Obviously, when we expand our associations and we reach out and connect with the people who have already done or who have already become who we are searching to become,
hmm,
it kind of like elevates us. But I can share that experience with you, man.
yeah,
In my family, no one's gone to college or finished college, those kinds of
hmm,
things. So kind of like navigating that journey, it was
Hmm.
tough because you just don't
Yeah.
know. It's just like
Yeah.
everybody else. Not that I expect anything different from the world. An opportunity that I get every day is to be blessed with the breath and open my
Hmm.
eyes and be able to see and
Hmm.
hear. So like, I've got the opportunity there, but it just didn't know. Like I just didn't know
Yeah.
where to go, financial aid,
Yeah.
none of that stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But here we are. We're both sitting here. We've passed that, and
Yeah.
you're a resident currently, and
Yeah.
going into fellowship, and then
Hmm.
kind of unleashing that world of air quotes here,
Hmm.
doctor earnings.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your journey so far with where you're at. Kind of making minimum wage and working
Yeah.
80 to 100 hours a week. How's
Yeah.
that feel?
Yeah, I mean, it's been tough. I think, I kind of got annoyed with the fact that I wasn't making any money in medical school. I took a lot of like side gigs in terms of like being a tutor, working at, different restaurants, those kind of things, like little side hustles, just to make some money and pay for medical training. And then honestly, ultimately, right after I graduated from medical school and then was transitioning to my residency, I actually started my tutoring company from that standpoint. So that kind of grew exponentially to its point where it is now. And that kind of helped soften the blow of, all the student loans that I had to take out and those kind of things to pay for medical school. So it's been able to, I've been making profit, which is nice to actually be able to, start paying off those loans very early instead of like them accruing interest and those kind of things. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's tough. It's tough. A lot of ramen and honey buns is what I was living off of in medical school. Yeah.
For
So,
sure. It's like the
yeah.
dog chasing its tail,
Yeah.
going after that interest. Because if you can't get on top
Yeah.
of that interest, you never pay off the
Exactly.
principal. So,
Exactly.
um, it just made me think too of in like college, they've just unleashed this capacity for athletes to earn
Hmm.
money in college,
Hmm.
big
Hmm.
money. So what
Yeah.
what if that gets opened up somehow, or maybe it is already for physicians?
Yeah.
How can you
Yeah.
earn money before because it's so tough?
Yeah, yeah, no, that's true. So I went to Mount Union. It's a Division III school in Ohio, and I actually was playing football and running track there. And so, we're like a national championship team, so we win pretty much every year, but it's like a full job.
Hmm.
So doing that on top of, doing my biochemistry degree, on top of having these side gigs because I'm trying to make money, those kind of things, it was so like burdensome. But going back to that, I'm always joking with some of my buddies now, like, man, I wish we were getting paid back then because that would have just been,
Yeah,
a lot easier
yeah.
from that aspect. But yeah, no, I mean, if it would be nice to see if there was some type of stipend or some type of compensation that physicians in training or nurses in training can get while they're in college. That would be amazing, honestly.
Maybe there's
Yeah.
this other opportunity, this idea of the pivot, the 1 degree pivot. And I see this so many
Hmm.
times. I see so
Hmm.
many products and services come from these journeys, coming from residency, whether into fellowship or attending, or whatever that journey may be. You have a unique stack of experiences that you've been blessed with, and being able
Hmm.
to uh, turn those and create those into businesses or services rendered or something is maybe that opportunity. But yeah, it takes time.
Yeah.
It takes energy to burn. You
Hmm.
make mistakes, all these things. Because once again, we're not given these roadmaps on how to do this. So I've got an idea. Now what? I want to
Hmm.
start a tutoring company. Now what? So tell me a little bit
Hmm.
about that for you. When was the moment that you realized that tutoring business could be something bigger?
Yeah, I think, I think it was a matter of support for me. I always had the idea of, hey, you know what, I definitely want to start my own business. I don't know what that business looks like. But then once I actually graduated medical school, I had a bunch of colleagues who were talking about, hey, maybe we should start our own tutoring company. We've been doing it for so many years now. We just need someone who has like that business mentality or at least has some type of background, which none of us had
Hmm.
to be honest. And so I think we just kind of did like rock, paper, scissors, and I honestly won or lost, I guess. So I decided that I would be the CEO and founder of the company, and just got on YouTube and just started looking up how to start my own LLC, those kind of things. I mean, the resources are there. Honestly, it's just a matter of finding the time to spend train and educate yourself with what you need. But yeah, I think honestly for me, it was just a big support system. My family was there along the way. They try to get me in contact with the right people who have they're young entrepreneurs who are building their own businesses, those kind of things. So yeah, I would just say support and just the time. You have to have that kind of drive to
Mhm.
want to do better and to see better for yourself and your family.
Yeah. You mentioned resources, and I did look at something you wrote prior to this about your journey being an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
Yeah, the resources are out there and you can go get them, but that's not what becoming an entrepreneur is. An entrepreneur
Hmm.
is having resilience and
Hmm.
having resourcefulness, like
Hmm.
this ability to bootstrap, to come up with
Hmm.
things that they don't cost money but generate money,
Hmm.
because you get in so much trouble if you go out and raise capital to
Hmm.
to create or build this idea, and if that capital is used for operating expenses, it goes bye bye in a hurry,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
there's no return on something like that.
Hmm.
So tell me a little bit about the resilience that was formed in this journey for you.
Yeah, and I think honestly, I owe a lot of the credit to my training in terms of like being an athlete. We're taught very early on, like, do not quit no matter what. Just keep pushing through. It's going to get easier. Those kind of things, and just kind of the environment that I grew up in. It was kind of a sink or swim kind of environment. And so I think I kind of had that internally hard drive inside from the beginning. And so I can't tell you how many times I've gone, without sleep, just messaging medical students like, hey, I have a new tutoring company. Why don't you try it? Trying to figure out how to make videos, those kind of things throughout the night after, being on the medicine rounds and wards and those kind of things. It takes so much effort, to be honest. And another thing I've learned to get used to is, the word no. You get, you hear no a lot, and sometimes it can be scary, at first, but now it's just another word for me. I've been told no at least 100 times before I got my first yes.
Yeah.
And that holds true even now. So yeah, that resiliency has to be there. You have
Yeah.
to put in the work and those kind of things.
So every no you get is one step closer to the yes. So
Yeah, that's a good way. Yeah.
sales is a whole nother ball
Yeah.
game, man. That's a whole nother, woo, that's another podcast in itself,
Yeah.
man. Especially cold calling, cold
Yeah.
reach outs,
Yeah.
until you start getting into those inbounds, and those inbounds
Hmm.
typically happen when you have that established rapport, that
Hmm.
established credibility and trust. So,
Hmm.
people have, what is it, the 7 hour rule, have consumed 7 hours of
Hmm.
your stuff before they even say,
Hmm.
"Hey, Matthew, tell me about this thing, man. Tell me
Hmm.
about this tutor thing," because
Hmm.
they've consumed this, content where you've created, giving them so much value that
Hmm.
they can't live their lives without
Hmm.
getting the service that you're providing.
Hmm.
So, in this journey too, in the beginning of your journey, you've got a little entrepreneurship
Hmm.
beat into you, and I think sports is a great background. So,
Yeah.
look at some of my colleagues and the way that they've built teams. If you have an athlete inside of your team building thing, it's
Hmm.
great because that personality, that
Yeah.
mindset is just huge to keep pushing and
Hmm.
keep driving.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
how does that relate now into financial freedom?
Yeah. That's always a good question. I think at least for physicians and all, and I'm sure you've experienced this plenty of times, over and over. We're so focused on just making it out. We get into medical school, and then after medical school, it doesn't stop there. We now have to get our license to practice, right? And so we have residency, which is another 3 to 5 years, depending on that. And then after that, then we're thinking of either, starting our own, primary care physician, or we're thinking of doing additional training, like, fellowship, for example. So I think a lot of that goes in the background, and we're not necessarily focused on it. And we hear now and then we'll have some financial advisors come and talk with us on some of our off days and those kind of things. But to be honest, I felt like we're just so overwhelmed with the amount of information and patient care that we're doing. We're not really focusing on it until we're finally there. We have our license. We're ready to practice. And now we're thinking like, oh, maybe we should have been saving along the way, or maybe we should have been investing in ourselves. So yeah, to be honest, I don't think about it too much, or have not thought about it as much as I should have, to be honest.
And for physicians and medical students listening now, when did you first start learning about real estate investing?
Yeah, that's I'll be honest. I think you hear it sometimes maybe from the actual attendings, who are already, they're older, they've been in the game for so many years, and they're always actually warning us like, hey, you should start investing now, like while you have the time. And I'll be honest, I don't think I really listened to maybe my first or second year of residency. And that's, after 4 years of medical school from that end. So I'm, at least 25 at that point, so yeah.
Yeah. And that's hard too. I mean, it's almost like your eyes glaze over because 80 to 100 hours a week, side gigs trying to keep up with the debt have created. And then, and then there's this other thing, and you should be doing this. And so it's hard, keeping the one thing is tough enough, but when we're adding this thing, but I hear it so much. I hear so many times, Matthew's like, oh, I should have done this. I wish I should have done this. And I should have. So I hear that a lot. The challenge, I guess the struggle is when and how do we do it? Right. I mean, have you started looking now, reading, learning about investing? Where are you seeing these things now?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm starting to at least look into it. I have a couple of friends who are big in like the real estate game, and I've just now got a financial advisor who's I'm actually supposed to meet with next week, actually. So I'm starting that journey. I don't know what that journey looks like yet, but at least I'm getting the right people around me to be able to help me set up a successful career moving forward in retirement ultimately. But yeah, so that's early in the works is kind of a short answer for your question.
So you also mentioned something about eventually being able to kind of connect your two things here together, talking about real estate and talking about the tutor platform and providing affordable housing for students while generating passive income. You've mentioned something this about, I like this idea. So now again, here comes this little 1 degree pivot into something, but it starts blending things together. So taking almost like a pain point from earlier in your life and bringing value to others doing this. So tell us a little bit about how are you going to blend real estate with the tutor company?
Yeah. So, one common struggle that I see with a lot of the medical students that I tutor is just affordable housing. We're doing rotations in sometimes so many different states. Me personally, I remember I was doing a lot of my rotations at University of Maryland, but sometimes, I'd have to go to Ohio for a rotation, or I'd have to go to Florida or Georgia. And you're kind of stuck like just looking up some random Airbnbs, and sometimes they're not necessarily safe or, even affordable from that aspect. So, one thing I was thinking about is, I've been trying to get into the real estate, or at least have an idea of getting into the real estate game moving forward. And, my thought process was maybe just getting some houses and buying some land and properties, and then kind of tying that in with my company. And so not only would you be able to get, necessarily, affordable tutoring, but also you'd be able to get the housing to go along with it, to be part of the kind of the package from that aspect. And then also, moving even past that, getting people like yourself to kind of just talk with these students and just talking to them about their future, the financial future. Have you talked about, retirement? What does that look like? Or have you interested in, getting real estate, those kind of things? So honestly, just educating the medical students beyond just medicine itself, because that's what we think about, like everything's just medicine. So, tweaking their mindset and getting to think beyond that is ultimately the goal, for my company.
And what is the name of the company?
Top MD Tutors.
So Top MD Tutor, and the listeners can find out more about this, learn about the platform, and catch up with you on the website, topmdtutors.com, right? And so you've created how are you juggling this? Like, so you're a resident, you're a CEO, founder. In the beginning, you may still be making cold calls. But, how are you juggling this? Like, do you have any suggestions for the listeners who are also in the same spot, trying to put together this 1 degree pivot and still keep the one thing?
It's tough, man, because I'm a big person on getting your sleep and getting your rest. As a physician, obviously, I have to promote that. But to be honest, I'm probably not practicing what I'm preaching. There's we get 1 day off a week from residency, and usually that day is packed full of me tutoring my students, making those cold calls, jumping on these podcasts, getting the business out there, those kind of things. So it takes so to be honest, the juggling is there, but it might not be the best kind of juggling, if you will.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it's a lot of sleepless nights. It's a lot of caffeinated beverages and, and those kind of things. So yeah, it's definitely tough, but it's nice that now, as the business is growing, we're now actually switching from an LLC to an S-Corp because we've just grown so much. We're now getting, more and more tutors who want to work for me. We're, getting more people who want to help with the business and grow the business. So it's kind of taking the work off me from that aspect. And so now, I'm able to sleep a little bit more than I usually do, and those kind of things.
Going to an S-Corp, that means you're probably getting paid too.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
get
yeah,
you get
yeah,
a paycheck, huh?
yeah.
Come
Yeah,
on,
we're
congratulations, man.
thanks, man. We're doing well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And see,
Yeah.
those are little funny things in my mind, like instantly when that little change, like, okay, wait a
Hmm.
second, somebody's getting paid now.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
really cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What do you feel? Hey, I was just thinking this. What if inside the tutor thing, the tutor platform, what if there was something about investing or in
Mm.
real estate or something? I mean,
Hmm.
that you could be injecting this into the med
Absolutely.
students sooner,
Absolutely.
just in the platform you've created.
Hmm. Hmm. No, I mean, that's ultimately the goal. I mean, I'm just someone who just gives, and I want to help. I want to, being a first generation, physician, I've now looking back, working with these students, I see myself in them, and I'm like, man, I wish I knew that when I was at that point in time, and like, how am I able to make life easier for these students, these nurses, those kind of
Hmm.
things in training. And so, yeah, that's absolutely something that I've definitely thought about. Like I said, I think networking is huge for me personally, and so, having the right people, like I said, like yourself, to just say like, hey, I have a person that you can talk to very early on, even if it's just like a simple conversation, just planting that seed, in terms of, financial freedom and those kind of things. Like, what does that look like for
Hmm.
you? And like, how old do you think you'll be when you get to that point? Or do you have a plan for getting to that point? Those kind of things. So yeah, definitely it's something that I have planned, somewhere in this brain
Yeah,
of
yeah.
mine. Yeah.
Financial freedom should really be synonymous, if that's a word. Sometimes I reach outside of my own thesaurus and I just try to
Hmm.
throw that out there. Should be
Hmm.
the same as career flexibility. And we talk
Mm.
about this a lot. Is it's not just to have nice things or have more money or anything like that. It's just the ability to to do what God has created you to do.
Hmm.
And in order to do
Amen.
that, you can't have that whole ball and chain mentality. And you said it before. It's like typically physicians have that time for money exchange
Hmm.
constantly and throughout their whole entire life. This financial freedom piece gives you that career flexibility, doing what you want to
Hmm.
do, doing the kind of medicine that you want to do. I think for most of us, we'll never retire because our
Hmm.
minds will not allow us.
Hmm.
Especially
Hmm.
as an athlete, you can say
Hmm.
that too. I've
Yeah.
got children, and Matthew, I just got back out. My kids don't do a lot of sports, but my daughter's in softball. And
Hmm.
man, you wanna feel like a kid again. Get out
Yeah.
there on the field again, and
Yeah.
man, I scare people because I'm in it. I'm in it. Hey, what's if you did include some type of sections or like little modules or something in Top MD Tutor, maybe if it was just the basics of real estate
Hmm.
investing, based off of where you're at right now, what's the number one struggle or like the entry point barrier for you in investing in real estate?
Hmm. I think coming up, I think financial, um like having the finances to afford it, I think would be the ultimate goal. Like I said, as a resident per se, you're definitely making less than six figures, but you're spending 80 plus hours a week, and a lot of that is spent, on groceries and apartment.
All right.
utilities and those kind of things.
Perfect. Perfect. So
Yeah.
it's
Am I getting somewhere?
it's going to be time or money. And I
Yeah.
started with the same problems. And
Yeah.
all of us will have either one or the other, right? It's hard to
Yeah.
have both of those. If I've got time, then I don't have money. If I've got money, then I don't have time. So
Hmm.
it's going to be one of those things. And if you think about it, I started my journey with OPM, other people's
Hmm.
money.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
the blessing that you have right now is just think about who is around you,
Hmm.
who you're surrounding with. Because once, physicians become attending, whether it's surgeons or whatever, they are looking for investments. So now, not that you have a bunch of time, but you have a resource,
Hmm.
which gives you the opportunity to be resourceful. Remember that word?
Hmm. Hmm.
And then start finding ways. Okay, so the money's around me. How can I use other people's money to advance where I'm at?
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
first couple of things that come into my mind are like house hacking is one way. I could even leverage a private money lender, we call them
Hmm.
PMLs, to acquire a property and
Hmm.
then rent out the bedrooms, to other residents or however it may be. You've got. The funny thing is, we've always been blessed with everything that we need. It's always right in front of us. Our perspective is the obstacle when it comes to that. So if maybe money is the first module or piece to lay in there, maybe it can be based off of things like house hacking, private money lending, even putting a group of people together and going into a syndication or something, because that's still passive, right? I've got to vet the jockey, I've got to vet the operator. But after that, it's not like I'm putting mints on pillows and, folding the toilet paper every morning, right? So there are ways or paths to do that. That's interesting. And just think about it that way. Where am I at? What's the struggle for me? And how can I help more people based off of where I'm at now? So, man, there's a bunch of stuff I just dropped on you right there.
Yeah. I'm writing it all down
Yeah,
actually, probably if you can't tell.
yeah, it's recorded. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay. I got
Yeah.
it.
Oh, the wonderful joys of AI. Yes, we
Yeah.
can run this through AI and have it summarized, and I
Oh,
can pull the
nice.
transcript right after this from AI. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm
But
old school, so I like to, I like to
yeah,
physically write things
yeah. I
down.
still, I still, I've got everything. But I'm for the listeners, I'm
You guys.
showing him all of my
Yeah.
my notes. I've got journals and sheets, and it's too much. It's too much.
Hmm.
So, with this in mind, so you've got maybe again another little 1 degree pivot that could
Hmm.
happen with real estate, with Top MD Tutor,
Hmm.
and with where you're going. What's been the biggest lessons you've learned about running a business while still
Yeah.
training?
One thing is like you just have to trust others. You have to get people who really are invested in you and in your business, and because one thing you'll do is if you try and you can never run a business by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when getting to this LLC or this S-Corp, I've had to have so many people help me along the way. And I've run myself dry so many times just trying to doing these cold calls on my own and, trying to get the right resources and network on my own, those kind of things. So asking for help, I think is the biggest thing that I've learned along the way. And that's something that I just personally struggle with, and we could spend a whole hour talking about that journey. But yeah, I think asking for help yeah, would be the biggest thing. We kind of talked about it before as well. It's just being okay with someone telling you no
Mm-hmm.
as well. Don't take it personally. That's just them. That doesn't mean the next person is going to tell you no. Um, and then let's see, I think there was another thing. It's just like delegating out roles, I think is another thing. It's just a leader in general for whatever you want to do. I think that's very important. So that way everyone knows what their tasks are. It's just laid out in front of them, and that way they can just go ahead and do it their way and then kind of report back to you a little bit later on. But yeah, I think those would be the biggest things that I've kind of learned along the way.
And when you do get those no's or feel like things are piling up on you, work,
Hmm.
the business, life in general, do you have
Hmm.
any tricks or tips that helps you build that resilience? When you're
Yeah.
feeling overwhelmed, what does Matthew do to
Yeah.
step back and shift the perspective back on what
Yeah.
matters?
So first off, I'm a praying man, so I like to pray through everything. So that's one big resource that I have. The other things is, I have friends who are close to me, and they're kind of businessmen in their own aspect, and so I kind of talk to them. I just tell them, hey, this is what's going on in my life. What have you done? in your career when you were in this point in time. I reach out to mentors. I've obviously talked to some of my patients about some of my business
Yeah.
things, just randomly, just getting a fresh perspective, I think is very important, especially when I feel like I've hit a wall. And you'd be surprised, the good advice that's out there,
Mhm.
for you. You just kind of got to ask and you got to seek it. And sometimes it's okay to just take time away from the business. I've taken days off where I've just, gone on a vacation, or I'm just, even just 20 minutes, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to read a book or cook something, whatever it may be. Just taking that time away is also very important as well. Just focusing on yourself.
Yeah, yeah, to refresh
Hmm.
the internal
Yep.
energy resource here. And
Hmm.
even hearing you say those things, I'm smiling. Like the gym, I absolutely love the gym. I love the
Yeah.
sauna. There's something about the
Yeah.
sauna for me.
Yep.
Prayer and meditation is
Yep.
huge.
Hmm.
A perspective of gratitude is just
Hmm.
massive. And it's
Hmm.
just shifting that perspective back to what matters most in your life.
Hmm.
And once you have that perspective, refocus back on, hey, most of the time it's right in front of you, right? There's the smallest things in life. You can celebrate those wins over and over and over
Hmm.
again,
Hmm.
and they
Hmm.
never get old. But the idea of taking a vacation and like turning the phone off, and
Yep.
it's those things bring me joy.
Yep.
And the idea of, hey, in order to do this, you really have to have, I mean, if you're W-2, if you're a resident, fellowship, that kind of stuff, you have to have that the paid time off, the old
Hmm.
PTO
Hmm.
stuff.
Hmm.
But if you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, a real entrepreneur, you've got to create systems that don't require you to function,
Hmm.
right? Those are huge things, and that's really how you go from
Hmm.
um, technician to manager to entrepreneur.
Hmm.
And that's from a book called E-Myth. There's like this triangle. And the reality of it is, if the business cannot function without you, then you're just
Hmm.
paying for a job.
Yeah.
So kind of keeping that in mind. The last thing to keep in mind too is, I'm yet to do it. Hopefully I'm getting really close, is the exit. When you've built a
Hmm.
business, you build it to sell, even though you may not be wanting or think you're going to sell it. If you structure it so the way
Hmm.
that it could be sold, then you're more likely going to be an entrepreneur as opposed to a technician or a manager
Hmm.
along the way
Hmm.
too. So
Hmm.
building those things up, selling, creating these exits, life is grand. We're all on vacation,
Yeah.
sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah.
Hey, what's next for Matthew?
Yeah. Yeah. Moving forward, after I finish this pulmonary critical care fellowship, oh man, what's next for me? Honestly, probably just expanding the business. I think, we just now started just going beyond medical students. We're now starting to tutor nursing students as well, which is nice. I think maybe expanding to pharmaceutical students. Um, those would probably be the next job. I'm trying to get like an institutional gig where I can just kind of work with one specific medical school, and just get guaranteed money from that aspect. Yeah, man, I don't know. Maybe start my own podcast. Who knows? We'll see.
Podcast. Yeah, that's awesome. I highly suggest that, man. It's
Yeah,
so amazing. Like I've
yeah.
gotten, it's just the opportunity to connect with people, and this is virtual. It's a
Hmm.
virtual show, so it doesn't take that much time out of your
Hmm.
day to
Hmm.
connect. And I've got to connect with so many amazing people, and I've
Hmm.
grown. And for every time, like I say, we're pretty booked out. But every
Hmm.
time that, I'm like, oh, because I've got my normal real estate
Hmm.
life
Hmm.
going on, right? And then I've got the opportunity to do the
Hmm.
podcast. And every time, like, if a booking appears to be a cloud over my head, all I have to do is shift my perspective back to say,
Hmm.
this is like a 30-minute, 45-minute
Yeah.
mentorship that I get
Yeah,
to have
exactly.
every
Yeah.
single day. So I
Yeah.
absolutely love it.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to ask you,
Hmm.
Matthew, was this question about if you could go back and change something. And it's
Hmm.
not, I don't ever want to change my life,
Hmm.
or ask you to change your life. It's what's one thing, if you could go back and suggest to that person who may be 5 years ahead of,
Hmm.
behind you, maybe they're just going into undergrad or something, not to change your life, but if you could change somebody else's life who wanted, I wish somebody told me that, what would it be that you would say to them?
Hmm. That's a good one. For me personally, I wish I wish I just wasn't afraid to take risk early on. It's a like calculated risk, I should say. Um, and how do you do that? I think just getting educated on, what you're investing in, and maybe just building that networking, that foundation from that standpoint. I was a person who was just all about, I'll find out myself. I'll kind of tough it through and, figure it out. But, once I actually started asking for help, and I started getting assistance from others who were smarter than me, had the right resources, all kind of things, I realized how foolish it was to try and do everything on your own, and how you're going against the grain, you're going against the tides, and how just tiring that is. So, if I'm speaking to anyone out there, I would just say, just reach out. If when in doubt, reach out to someone who's in the field that you want to be in. And it's okay if they don't respond. It's okay if they say no. Just keep doing it until you find that right person, because there's someone out there for you. Reach out, get a mentor, and then take those calculated risks. There's nothing wrong with it. You might mess up the first time, but you won't the second time, or you won't the third time, those kind of things. And so, that would probably be the biggest piece of advice that I would give, at least to my younger self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the last advice that I have is go to topmdtutor.com, right?
Yeah.
Chase down Matthew, say, hey, man, help me out. I've got this thing going on. You've been there. You've done it before. You've helped others do this before. So tell me a little bit about what that's like. So you can reach Matthew at topmdtutor.com. We'll put this in the description as well, too. And hopefully all the med students that are listening, and maybe even another doctor, can connect with you too and say, hey, I got that money, but I just don't have that time. And they can help Matthew get into real estate sooner rather than later. It's all about connections, like you're saying. When in doubt, reach out for sure. And whether that's about education, about book stuff, about clinical stuff, about financials, or just about emotions. I can't stress that enough either. It's good to talk about it. So no matter who you are, how you deal with emotions, it's always good to talk about those things with the right people. That's important. Hey, man, the time is wrapped for us. Thank you so much for being here today, Matthew. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Well, one thing is clear. Investing early and thinking outside of medicine creates options. Here are 3 big takeaways from my conversation with Dr. Simpson today. Financial education should start before you earn doctor money. Learning early is key. You don't need an MBA to start a business. Being resourceful is more important than having resources. Real estate, business, and investing are tools to create freedom, not just wealth. And ultimately, I'm going to add in here resilience. Resilience is key. Keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. You're almost there. Hey, if you want to learn more, visit topmdtutors.com. That's topmdtutors.com, or connect with Dr. Matthew Simpson on social media. Until next time, this is the Real Estate Mogul MD.